2022 has been a monumental year for both PC enthusiasts as well as gamers. The tech industry has exploded with more cores and more gigahertz and more power, and we are left absolutely gobsmacked with the amount of choice we have on the GPU CPU market at the moment. But with so much advancement, we are left with the lingering question: do I stick with old tech and stay within my lane and keep the tech that I have for a few years to come, or do I upgrade instantly? Well, my friend, we have managed to get our hands on the 5900X. A friend of mine recently upgraded, and we're going to take this for a test ride so you guys can better decide on whether you guys stay where you are or if you upgrade to the latest and greatest. Welcome to the Sugar Gaming channel. Today we're going to be reviewing the 5900X, but before we get started, a big shout out to our sponsor, the SMG Gaming Community. Join SMG and get involved in a great gaming community. We are always on the lookout for gamers and content creators. If this sounds like you, hit us up on Twitter or join with the link down in the description below. Recently, a friend acquired the 5900X, and with him buying this, posed a huge question, at least from me. Was it the right time for him to be upgrading, as this CPU is coming down due to new AM5 CPUs about to launch? Or was he right in buying the CPU? In order to test it out, we're going to figure out how this puppy runs and give our summary at the end of the video. But before we get into the benchmarks, guys, let's run through the specs of the 5900X. The 5900X is AMD Ryzen 9 series CPU running on the AM4 chipset. The CPU has a base clock of 3.7 GHz and a boost clock of 4.8 GHz. The 5900X struts its stuff with 12 cores and 24 threads, not to mention the 64 MB of R3 cache. The chip also runs on AMD's 7nm nodes with a TDP of 105 watts. The chip launched back in 2020, and with it being a 2-year-old CPU, we wanted to see how this chip performs and whether or not you guys should stay with this upgrade for AM4 systems, or if you guys should be looking at the latest and greatest. The 5900X is an absolute monster with, 12 cores and 24 threads. We also made sure that we bench test this CPU in a system that has been daily driven, and the current specs are as follow. My friend is currently running the X570 gaming F Strix board from ROG. He is also running a 6700 XT along with 32 GB of RAM, and he has it run on an AIO. Unfortunately, I didn't get the specs for his AIO, so I can't tell you exactly what he is running. Without that though, it's not really a big issue, and we can continue on with the benchmarks in order to give our final opinion. Without further ado, let's jump into the benchmarks and give you guys a bit of a rundown on how this chip performs. So there you guys have it. The benchmarks are very clear. The 5900X is not a slouch. And to be honest, actually performed a lot better than I was expecting. For a lot of the synthetic tests, you guys get a really high score, as you guys saw in 3D Mark. But I can imagine when you guys are running through, say, something like Blender or DaVinci Resolve or even any of the Adobe suite, you're going to have plenty enough cores to do the rendering to be able to get the right sort of performance out of your rig. Overall gaming performance was, well, incredible. It was running a 6700 XT and on a 2K monitor, I might add. So adding those two things up, this chip is very good at what it does. And if you were to add, say, maybe even a 6800X or even a 6900, or maybe even throw in the 3080 Ti, you'd get performance that is unbeatable, really. So I guess the final summary on this is that he did the right thing in terms of buying the CPU at a lower price. If this CPU was still ranging around the $1,000 mark when it first released, I don't think he'd be making the right choice. But because of the AM4 systems being, well, you can obviously take one CPU from earlier generation and put it into, you know, your latest gen. It's really beneficial that he's gone along with the AM4 chip and decided to upgrade through that space. So overall, I think it was a great idea him upgrading to the 5900X. And if you guys are thinking of doing exactly the same thing, just remember this CPU will be valid for the next 2 to 3 years until let's say Unreal Engine releases some fancy schmancy new graphic engine, or something happens within the industry that absolutely tanks its performance. But right now, in this current moment, as we're taking this video, the 5900X is an absolute beast and is worth the upgrade. Guys, I want to thank you guys so very much for dropping on into this video. If you guys like what you saw, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, tick the notification button. As always, catch me in the next video. Thanks for all the support, thanks for all the love, stay safe out there, and we'll see you guys in the next review.